The night air rests gently over the wide land, soft and still, as if the world itself has grown quiet with age. Far away, the slow water of the Nile moves in the darkness, barely making a sound. A faint breeze drifts across the riverbanks, carrying the dry scent of earth and reeds. It passes over low mud brick homes, over sleeping animals, and through narrow streets where the dust has settled for the night. In this quiet hour, before the first light of morning, the ancient world feels calm and distant. The sky is deep and wide, filled with faint stars that shimmer without urgency. Somewhere, a small oil lamp flickers inside a home, its flame steady and warm. Inside one of these homes, a man begins to wake. He is a scribe. His body stirs slowly from rest, not all at once, but in a gentle return to the waking world. The mat beneath him is thin, made from woven reeds, and it carries the shape of his body from many nights before. His limbs feel heavy at first. The air is still cool, but already there is a quiet promise of heat waiting for the day to begin. He does not rush. There is no sudden movement, no sharp beginning. Instead, he breathes slowly and opens his eyes to the dim glow of early light. The room around him is simple. The walls are rough and slightly uneven, shaped from dried mud. A few small objects rest in their places, undisturbed. He sits up, feeling the stiffness in his back and shoulders. This is a familiar feeling. Each day brings the same quiet weight to his body. It is not painful, but it is steady and constant, like the slow passage of time itself. Outside, the world is beginning to change. The sky lightens very slowly, turning from deep blue into soft gray. The birds have not yet begun their full chorus, but a few gentle calls can be heard in the distance. Somewhere, a door opens. Somewhere else, a faint sound of movement touches the stillness. The scribe stands. His feet touch the cool floor, made from packed earth. He pauses for a moment, letting his balance settle. Then he moves quietly through the room, careful not to disturb the calm of the early morning. He washes his face with a small amount of water kept in a clay jar. The water is cool, refreshing in its simplicity. It runs over his hands and drips softly onto the ground. There is no waste. Every drop has meaning in this land. His clothing is simple. A light linen garment, worn and softened by many days of use. He wraps it around himself with practiced ease. There is no decoration, no excess. Only what is needed. The smell of bread begins to rise faintly from somewhere nearby. Someone has already begun the morning's work. The scent is warm and quiet, drifting through the air like a gentle reminder of the day ahead. The scribe steps outside. The village is waking slowly. A few figures move through the narrow paths, their forms soft in the early light. Sandals brush against the ground with a quiet rhythm. A donkey shifts its weight and exhales softly. A woman kneels near a small fire, tending to her work with steady hands. The scribe walks without hurry. His path is familiar. He has walked it many times before, each step placed without thought. The ground beneath him is firm, shaped by countless footsteps over many years. The walls beside him hold the memory of heat and sunlight, though now they rest in the cool of morning. As he walks, the sky continues to brighten. The first warm light of the sun begins to stretch across the land. It touches the tops of buildings, the edges of distant trees, and the slow-moving surface of the river. The air changes with it, becoming softer, warmer, more alive. The scribe carries a small bundle with him. Inside are the tools of his work. Reeds for writing, carefully cut and shaped. A small palette with dark ink, made from soot and water. Pieces of papyrus, rolled and protected. These objects are simple, but they hold great importance. They are his purpose, his duty, his place in the world. He reaches the place where he works. It is not large or grand. It is a shaded area near a larger building, where others also gather to perform their tasks. The ground is smoother here, worn by use. A low stool rests near a flat surface that serves as his writing space. He sits. The movement is slow and practiced. His body settles into position, legs folded, back slightly bent. This posture will remain with him for many hours. It is not entirely comfortable, but it is known. He opens his bundle. Each item is placed carefully. The reed pen is held lightly in his hand. The ink is prepared with small, deliberate movements. The papyrus is unrolled and smoothed gently. For a moment, he pauses. The world around him continues to wake. Voices begin to rise softly. The sound of footsteps becomes more frequent. Somewhere, someone laughs quietly, though it does not disturb the calm. Then, he begins to write. The first marks appear slowly on the surface of the papyrus. Each line is careful, measured, and steady. There is no rushing. Each symbol must be clear, each stroke precise. The work requires focus, but it is not loud or urgent. It moves at a steady pace, like the flow of the river nearby. His hand moves, then rests. Moves again, then pauses. Time begins to pass. The sun rises higher in the sky, and the warmth increases. The shaded area offers some relief, but the heat slowly finds its way into everything. The air becomes thicker, heavier. Sweat forms lightly on his skin. He does not stop. This is his routine. It repeats day after day, with only small changes. The words he writes may differ, but the act itself remains the same. Around him, others are working. A builder carries stones with slow determination. A merchant arranges goods with quiet care. A farmer passes by, his steps steady but tired. Each person moves within their own rhythm, shaped by the demands of the day. The scribe continues. His fingers become slightly stiff as time goes on. The reed pen must be dipped again and again. The ink dries quickly in the heat, requiring constant attention. The papyrus beneath his hand holds the record of his labor. Lines of symbols grow slowly across its surface, each one placed with intention. There is a quiet satisfaction in this work. It is not loud or visible. It does not draw attention. But it holds meaning. It preserves words, records actions, and carries information beyond a single moment. The hours move gently forward. The sun climbs higher. The light becomes brighter, more intense. The shade shrinks slightly, and the heat deepens. The sounds of the village grow softer again, as many retreat from the strongest part of the day. The scribe shifts his position slightly. His back aches now, a dull and steady sensation. His legs feel heavy from remaining still. But he continues, adjusting only enough to keep going. A small break comes. He sets down his pen and reaches for a piece of bread. It is simple and firm, slightly dry from the heat. He eats slowly, without hurry. Each bite is small, enough to sustain him. He drinks a little water. The water is warm, but it eases the dryness in his throat. He wipes his hands gently and prepares to return to his work. There is no long rest. The day continues, and so does he. His hand moves again across the papyrus. The symbols return, one after another, forming a quiet pattern of meaning. The air feels heavier now. The heat presses gently but constantly. It settles on his shoulders, his arms, his face. The world slows under its weight. Even the sounds become softer, as if the air itself is too full to carry them clearly. Still, the scribe writes. There is something steady in this repetition. Something calm in the quiet movement of hand and thought. It is not exciting. It does not change quickly. But it continues, like the slow passing of the sun across the sky. And so the hours drift forward, one after another, as the scribe remains at his place, writing in the warmth of the ancient day, his work unfolding slowly in the quiet rhythm of time. The heat of the day settles more deeply now, spreading across the land with a quiet persistence. The light from the sun grows stronger, falling in wide, steady beams that touch every surface. The ground begins to warm beneath the scribe's feet, and the air carries a faint dryness that lingers with each breath. The scribe remains seated in his place, his body curved gently over his work. His hand moves with the same careful rhythm as before, though now it feels slightly slower, weighed down by the passing hours. The reed pen glides across the papyrus, leaving behind lines that are both delicate and permanent. There is no rush in his movements. Each mark is made with patience. Each pause comes naturally, like a breath between thoughts. He does not think about the length of the day ahead. He simply continues, one line at a time. A soft sound of sandals brushing against the ground passes nearby. Someone walks slowly through the shaded area, carrying a small bundle. The footsteps are steady, unhurried, and soon fade into the distance. The scribe does not look up for long. His eyes remain mostly on the papyrus, following the lines he creates. The world around him moves gently, but his focus stays close, centered on the small space before him. From somewhere beyond the buildings, the faint sound of water can be heard. The Nile continues its slow journey, untouched by the heat above. Its steady movement brings a quiet sense of comfort, even from afar. The scribe dips his pen again. The ink has thickened slightly in the warmth, and he adds a small amount of water, mixing it carefully. His fingers move with quiet skill, learned through many days just like this one. Nothing is wasted. Every motion is purposeful. The papyrus beneath his hand begins to fill. Rows of symbols stretch across its surface, forming a quiet record of something that matters, even if it is not seen by many. The lines are neat, balanced, and consistent. There is a calm order in them. He shifts slightly again. His back presses upward for a moment, easing the steady ache that has settled there. His shoulders rise and fall with a slow breath. Then, just as gently, he returns to his position and continues writing. Around him, the day reaches its fullest heat. Many have stepped away from their work, finding small patches of shade or resting inside thick-walled homes. The sounds of the village grow softer once more. Even the animals seem quieter, their movements slower under the weight of the sun. A faint breeze moves through the space. It is light and brief, but it carries a small sense of relief. It brushes against the scribe's skin and stirs the edge of the papyrus slightly. He pauses for a moment, letting the air pass, then steadies the sheet with his hand. The stillness returns. Time continues to move, though it feels stretched and slow. The sun holds its place high above, and the shadows remain short and faint. The scribe continues his work. His fingers are now slightly stained with ink. Small marks rest along his skin, signs of the many hours spent in quiet writing. His grip on the reed is gentle but firm, shaped by habit rather than effort. He does not think about the end of the day. He does not count the hours. He simply writes. A figure approaches and stops nearby. It is another worker, carrying a clay jar. The man lowers himself slowly to the ground, resting in the shade. For a while, there is no conversation. Only the shared presence of two people passing through the same quiet moment. The worker drinks from the jar, then sets it down beside him. After a short time, he speaks softly, his voice low and calm. The words are simple, carried without urgency. The scribe listens briefly, offering a small nod in return. There is no long exchange. Just a brief connection, then silence again. The worker eventually rises and continues on his way. The scribe returns fully to his writing. The papyrus now holds many lines, and he carefully adjusts it, rolling one edge slightly to make space for more. His movements remain slow and precise, guided by routine. The light begins to change, almost without notice. The sun shifts slightly in the sky, and the angle of its light softens. The shadows grow a little longer, stretching gently across the ground. The air, though still warm, begins to lose its sharpest edge. A subtle sense of movement returns to the village. Doors open. Voices rise softly again. The quiet pause of midday begins to pass, and the rhythm of the day slowly resumes. The scribe feels this change, though he does not stop. His work continues, steady and calm. The reed pen moves again and again, marking the passing of time in a way that cannot be hurried. A small drop of sweat falls from his brow onto the papyrus. He notices it immediately. With care, he lifts a cloth and gently presses it against the surface, absorbing the moisture before it can spread. The mark remains clear. The work is preserved. He exhales softly. Then he continues. The sky above shifts into a softer shade of blue. The brightness begins to ease, and the warmth becomes more gentle. The day is moving toward its later hours, though there is still work to be done. The scribe's body feels heavier now. His legs are tired from remaining still. His back carries the steady weight of the day's labor. His eyes blink more slowly, resting for brief moments before returning to the lines before him. Still, he does not rush. There is no need. The work will continue as long as it must, just as it always has. Another small pause comes. He sets down the reed and stretches his fingers, opening and closing his hands slowly. The movement is careful, easing the stiffness that has built over many hours. He looks briefly at the papyrus. The lines are complete in this section. Neat and balanced. Quiet and steady. He rolls it gently, securing it with care, and sets it aside. But the day is not finished. Another piece of papyrus is brought forward. Another task waits. He prepares again, repeating the same simple steps. The ink is checked. The reed is adjusted. The surface is smoothed. Then, once more, he begins. The rhythm returns immediately. Hand moving. Ink flowing. Lines forming. The world around him continues its quiet motion, but the scribe remains centered in his place, surrounded by the soft sounds of an ancient day slowly moving toward evening. And so, without hurry, without pause, he continues writing, carried forward by routine, by patience, and by the gentle, unbroken passage of time. The light of the day begins to soften in a quiet and almost unnoticeable way. The strong brightness that once filled every corner now eases into something more gentle. Shadows stretch longer across the ground, thin at first, then slowly deepening as the sun lowers in the sky. The scribe remains at his place, still and focused, though his body carries the long weight of the hours behind him. His hand moves across the fresh surface of papyrus, steady but slower now, as if each motion is shaped by the fading energy of the day. The air has changed. It is still warm, but the sharp heat has begun to loosen its hold. A softer breeze moves through the space, carrying with it the faint scent of dry earth and distant water. It touches the scribe's skin and brings a quiet sense of ease, even if only for a moment. He continues to write. The reed pen dips into the ink, then returns to the page. Each symbol appears with quiet care, placed exactly where it belongs. There is no wasted movement. No sudden change. Only the steady rhythm that has guided him since the early morning. Around him, the village slowly returns to life after the stillness of midday. Footsteps pass more often now, though they remain unhurried. Voices rise gently in the distance, soft and low, like a quiet murmur carried through the warm air. A child's laughter drifts for a moment, then fades again into the rhythm of the evening. The scribe does not turn toward the sound. His attention stays close to his work, though the presence of life around him settles gently in his awareness. It is familiar, comforting in its own quiet way. A cart moves slowly along a nearby path. Its wooden wheels press softly against the ground, making a low, steady sound. The animal pulling it walks with calm patience, each step measured and even. Dust rises lightly behind it, then settles again as it passes. The scribe pauses for a brief moment. He lifts his hand slightly, allowing the ink to dry. His fingers feel stiff, and he gently flexes them, one by one. The movement is small, but it brings a slight relief. He glances at the sky. The sun is lower now, no longer at its highest point. Its light has turned warmer, softer, spreading across the land in a golden tone that rests gently on the walls and ground. Then he returns to his work. The papyrus before him begins to fill once more. Lines grow slowly, forming a quiet pattern of meaning that stretches across the surface. Each mark is placed with the same care as the first, even after so many hours. There is a calm persistence in this work. It does not demand speed. It does not call for strength. Instead, it asks for patience, for attention, for the quiet willingness to continue. The breeze returns again, slightly stronger this time. It moves through the shaded area, lifting the edges of loose cloth and stirring small grains of dust. The scribe places his hand gently on the papyrus to keep it still. The movement is natural, practiced without thought. From somewhere nearby, the smell of cooking begins to rise. Bread warms over a fire. Perhaps lentils simmer slowly in a clay pot. The scent is simple, but it carries a quiet comfort, a reminder that the day will soon begin to close. The scribe feels the slow pull of tiredness. It settles into his shoulders, his back, his eyes. His body leans slightly more as he works, adjusting without fully noticing. His breath remains steady, though deeper now, shaped by the long hours. Still, he continues. The rhythm has not changed. The reed moves. The ink flows. The symbols appear. A group of workers passes by, returning from their labor. Their steps are slower now, their movements shaped by fatigue. They speak softly among themselves, their voices low and calm. Some carry tools. Others carry small bundles. All move with the quiet understanding that the day is nearing its end. The scribe listens without lifting his head. Their presence is part of the world around him, woven gently into the fabric of the evening. A bird crosses the sky above, its wings moving slowly through the warm air. It glides for a moment, then disappears beyond the rooftops. The light continues to fade. The golden tones deepen, becoming softer, more muted. Shadows grow longer still, stretching across the ground in quiet patterns. The heat continues to ease, leaving behind a gentle warmth that rests more comfortably on the skin. The scribe finishes another line. He pauses, allowing his hand to rest. His fingers loosen slightly around the reed, and he sets it down beside the ink. For a moment, he simply sits, breathing slowly, feeling the stillness that has begun to settle around him. But his work is not yet complete. He reaches for the reed again. The motion is slower now, more deliberate. Each movement carries the weight of the day behind it. Still, the care remains. The precision remains. He writes again. The sounds of the village grow softer as evening approaches. Fires are lit. Meals are prepared. Voices drift in and out, carried gently on the cooling air. The world begins to slow once more, returning to a quieter state. The Nile, not far away, continues its steady movement. Though unseen from where he sits, its presence can be felt in the faint moisture of the air, in the quiet sense of life that flows through the land. It moves as it always has, calm and unchanging. The scribe feels the end of the day approaching. It is not marked by a sudden change, but by a gradual fading. His energy lowers. His movements become smaller, more measured. His eyes rest more often between lines. At last, he completes the final marks on the papyrus before him. He lifts the reed and sets it aside. Carefully, he looks over the work. His gaze moves slowly across the lines, checking each symbol, each space. There is no hurry even now. Only quiet attention. Satisfied, he begins to roll the papyrus. The motion is gentle, controlled, preserving the work within. He secures it and places it with the others, each one holding the record of a long day's labor. The tools are cleaned and gathered. The ink is covered. The reed is set aside. The space before him is returned to its simple state. He rises slowly. His legs feel heavy at first, stiff from many hours in one position. He takes a moment to steady himself, allowing the feeling to pass. Then he stands fully, his posture straightening as much as it can. The air around him is cooler now. The sun has lowered further, and the light has softened into a quiet glow that rests gently over the land. The sounds of the village have become calm once more, settling into the rhythm of evening. The scribe gathers his bundle. He holds it lightly, close to his side, and begins to walk. His steps are slow, unhurried, following the same familiar path back through the narrow streets. The ground beneath his feet is warm but no longer hot. The walls beside him hold the last light of the day, their surfaces glowing softly. People move quietly around him. Some sit near their homes, resting after the day's work. Others finish small tasks, their movements slow and steady. A few voices rise gently, then fade again into the evening air. The scent of food is stronger now. It fills the space between the buildings, warm and simple, carrying a quiet sense of comfort. The scribe breathes it in as he walks, his body responding with a soft awareness of hunger. Above, the sky begins to change once more. The blue fades slowly into deeper tones. The first faint stars begin to appear, small and distant, just as they were the night before. The scribe continues on his path, his steps steady, his body tired but calm, as the ancient day gently comes to its quiet close around him. The evening settles slowly over the land, soft and unhurried, like a quiet breath released after a long day. The last light of the sun fades gently along the horizon, leaving behind a warm glow that lingers for a while before giving way to deeper shades of blue. The scribe walks through the narrow path, his steps steady but slower now. His body carries the weight of the day, not in pain, but in a quiet heaviness that rests in his limbs. The ground beneath his sandals feels familiar, shaped by countless journeys just like this one. Around him, the village eases into its evening rhythm. Small fires burn near the entrances of homes, their flames low and steady. The light flickers softly against the mud brick walls, creating gentle shadows that move without urgency. The smell of baking bread and warm grain fills the air, drifting from one home to another. He passes by a family seated close together. They sit on low mats, sharing a simple meal. Their voices are soft, almost blending with the sounds of the evening. A child leans against an elder, eyes half closed, while a woman breaks bread into smaller pieces with careful hands. The scribe does not stop, but he notices. These quiet moments are part of the world he moves through each day. They are steady and familiar, just like his own routine. A donkey stands nearby, shifting its weight gently, its ears flicking at the soft sounds around it. Somewhere, a clay pot is set down with a dull, hollow sound. The air is no longer heavy with heat. It has softened, becoming easier to breathe. The scribe reaches his home. It is small and simple, like the others. The doorway is low, and he steps inside with a slight bend of his head. The air within is cooler, protected from the open sky. A small oil lamp burns quietly in the corner. Its flame is steady, casting a warm and gentle light across the room. The walls hold the glow softly, their rough surfaces catching the light in uneven patterns. He sets down his bundle. The papyrus rolls are placed carefully, away from dust and movement. His reed and ink are set beside them, ready for the next day, though that time still feels far away. For a moment, he simply stands. The stillness of the room surrounds him. The quiet is deeper here, broken only by the faint sound of the lamp and the distant murmur of the village beyond the walls. He moves slowly. His hands reach for a small clay bowl. Inside is a simple meal, prepared earlier or brought by someone in the household. Bread, perhaps some lentils, maybe a few vegetables. Nothing more than what is needed. He sits on the woven mat. The same mat that held him through the night before. It feels slightly warm from the day's heat, though it is already beginning to cool. He eats without hurry. Each bite is small. The taste is simple, familiar. There is no rush, no distraction. Only the quiet act of nourishing the body after a long day of still work. Outside, the sounds continue to soften. Voices grow fewer. Movements slow. The rhythm of the village gently fades into silence. One by one, the small fires dim, their light becoming softer and lower. The scribe finishes his meal. He sets the bowl aside and rests his hands on his knees. His fingers still carry faint traces of ink, small dark marks that remain even after the day has ended. They are quiet signs of his work, carried into the night. He exhales slowly. The breath is deeper now, shaped by tiredness. His shoulders lower slightly, releasing the steady tension held throughout the day. The lamp flickers gently. Its light moves across the room in soft patterns. The shadows shift slowly, stretching and settling along the walls. The scribe prepares for rest. There is no complex ritual. Only simple, familiar actions. He adjusts the mat, smoothing it with his hands. He removes his outer garment, setting it aside neatly. He lies down. His body meets the mat with a quiet sense of relief. The firmness beneath him is known, shaped by many nights of rest. His limbs settle slowly, one by one, releasing the weight they have carried. Outside, the night deepens. The sky is now filled with stars, clear and steady. The air has cooled further, carrying a gentle softness that moves through the open spaces of the village. The Nile continues its silent flow, unseen but ever present. The scribe closes his eyes. At first, his thoughts move lightly, drifting between small memories of the day. The lines of papyrus. The steady motion of his hand. The warmth of the sun. The quiet sounds of the world around him. But these thoughts do not stay for long. They fade slowly, like the light of the evening, becoming softer, less defined, until they disappear into the calm of rest. His breathing deepens. Each breath comes slowly, evenly, rising and falling in a steady rhythm. His body becomes still, no longer shaped by effort or movement. The night holds him gently. There is no urgency here. No need for action. Only the quiet passage of time as the world rests. In the distance, a soft sound of water continues, steady and unchanged. The same sound that was there in the early morning. The same sound that will remain when the next day begins. The scribe sleeps. His body recovers in the stillness, preparing quietly for the routine that will return with the light. The same waking. The same path. The same careful work. But for now, there is only rest. The lamp burns lower, its flame growing smaller, softer, until it gives only a faint glow. The room is filled with shadows, calm and unmoving. Outside, the village is quiet. The dust has settled again. The footsteps have faded. The voices are gone. Only the night remains. And within it, the scribe rests, carried gently by sleep, as the ancient world grows still once more. The night continues in its quiet way, stretching gently across the land without disturbance. The air has cooled further now, carrying a soft stillness that rests over the village. The walls of the homes release the warmth they held during the day, and the ground beneath them slowly loses its heat. Inside the small room, the scribe remains asleep. His breathing is deep and steady, rising and falling without effort. The mat beneath him holds his shape, familiar and unchanged. The faint glow of the oil lamp has nearly disappeared, leaving only a dim trace of light that flickers softly before fading into darkness. Outside, the stars fill the sky. They shine clearly, undisturbed by anything below. Their quiet presence stretches far beyond the land, beyond the river, beyond the reach of the village itself. The night feels wide and open, though it remains calm and close at the same time. The Nile continues its slow movement. Though unseen, its presence is felt in the coolness of the air and the gentle rhythm that never stops. The water flows as it always has, steady and patient, carrying with it the quiet sense of time passing. Hours move slowly. The village remains still. No footsteps pass through the narrow paths. No voices rise. Even the animals rest, their movements soft and rare. The world holds a deep silence, broken only by the smallest sounds: a faint shift, a quiet breath, the distant murmur of water. The scribe sleeps through it all. His body rests fully now, free from the steady work of the day. The stiffness in his back eases. The weight in his limbs softens. His hands, once active and precise, lie still at his sides. The night begins to change. It happens slowly, almost without notice. The darkness loses a small part of its depth. The air shifts slightly, carrying a faint hint of something new. The stars remain, but their brightness softens just a little. Far away, a bird makes a single, quiet sound. It is not loud. It does not break the calm. It simply marks the gentle turning of time. The scribe stirs. Not fully awake, not yet moving, but shifting slightly within his rest. His breath changes for a moment, becoming lighter, then deeper again. His body remains heavy with sleep, but the first small signs of waking begin to appear. The sky continues to lighten. The deep blue of night slowly fades into a softer shade. The horizon holds a faint glow, pale and distant, but growing with quiet certainty. The stars begin to fade, one by one, slipping away into the coming light. The village remains still for a little while longer. This moment, just before morning, carries a special kind of quiet. It is not the deep silence of night, but something lighter, as if the world is gently preparing to begin again. The scribe's eyes open. Slowly. There is no sudden movement, no sharp return to the day. His gaze rests softly in the dim light, adjusting without effort. The room is still dark, but no longer fully shadowed. He breathes in. The air feels cool, fresh compared to the warmth of the day before. It carries a faint scent of earth and stillness. His body remains still for a moment, resting in the quiet space between sleep and waking. Then, gently, he begins to move. His hand shifts slightly against the mat. His shoulders rise just a little. The heaviness of sleep begins to lift, though it lingers in his limbs. He sits up. The movement is slow and familiar. His back straightens, though it carries the memory of the day before. His eyes blink softly as he looks around the room, taking in the quiet shapes of the walls and the faint outline of his belongings. The lamp is out now. Only the early light of dawn touches the space, soft and pale. Outside, the first small sounds begin. A door opens somewhere in the distance. Sandals brush lightly against the ground. Another bird calls, joined by a second, then a third. The village is beginning to wake. The scribe remains seated for a moment. He lets the stillness linger. His breath moves slowly. His body adjusts to the return of wakefulness. Then, as he has done many times before, he rises. His feet touch the cool floor. The sensation is gentle, grounding him fully in the present moment. He pauses briefly, allowing his balance to settle. He moves toward the clay jar. The water inside is still and cool. He lifts it carefully and pours a small amount over his hands. The water flows across his skin, washing away the last traces of sleep. He touches his face with the coolness. It brings a quiet clarity, a soft beginning to the day. His clothing rests where he left it. He wraps it around himself again, the fabric light and familiar. It carries the faint scent of dust and sun, a quiet reminder of the world outside. The smell of bread begins once more. It drifts gently through the early air, warm and simple. Someone nearby has already begun their work, just as he soon will. He gathers his bundle. The papyrus, the reed, the ink. Each item is checked with calm care. Nothing has changed, yet each day they feel newly ready. He steps outside. The sky is brighter now, though the sun has not yet fully risen. The air is cool and soft, carrying a calm that will soon give way to warmth. The village moves slowly. A few figures walk through the narrow paths. A woman kneels near a small fire. A man lifts a tool, preparing for his work. The rhythm of life begins again, quiet and steady. The scribe walks his familiar path. His steps are measured, unhurried. The ground beneath him feels the same as it did the day before, shaped by countless journeys. The light grows. The sun begins to rise, touching the edges of the buildings and the distant river. The world shifts from shadow into soft gold. He reaches his place. The same shaded area. The same low stool. The same flat surface waiting before him. He sits. The movement settles into him like a memory. His body finds its position without thought. He opens his bundle. The reed is placed in his hand. The ink is prepared. The papyrus is unrolled. For a moment, he pauses. The morning is quiet, just as it was before. The air is calm. The sounds are soft. The day stretches ahead, long and steady. Then, gently, he begins again. The reed touches the papyrus. The first mark appears. And the routine continues, just as it always has, moving forward in the same calm rhythm, carried by the quiet passage of time. The early light settles gently across the village, soft and pale at first, then slowly growing warmer as the sun continues its steady rise. The air still holds a trace of coolness, though it begins to fade with each passing moment. A quiet calm rests over everything, as if the day is taking its time to fully arrive. The scribe sits in his place once more. His posture is familiar, shaped by many days that have come before. His legs are folded beneath him, his back slightly curved, his hand resting lightly on the surface of the papyrus. The reed pen moves with quiet purpose, forming the first lines of the new day. The marks appear slowly. Each one is placed with care, just as before. The rhythm returns easily, as if it had never left. The small pauses between strokes, the gentle dipping of the reed into ink, the steady movement of the hand, everything follows the same calm pattern. Around him, the world begins to wake more fully. The sounds grow a little stronger, though they remain soft. Sandals brush against the ground as people pass by. A low voice calls out in the distance. The quiet hum of life begins again, steady and unhurried. The scribe does not look up often. His attention stays close to his work, centered on the lines that slowly fill the papyrus. The surface beneath his hand is smooth, slightly textured, and warm from the growing light. A faint breeze moves through the space. It is gentle and cool, carrying with it the scent of the river and the dry earth beyond. It passes over the scribe's skin, stirring the edge of his garment, then disappears just as quietly as it came. He continues to write. The symbols form one after another, each one clear and balanced. There is no hesitation. His hand knows the movement well. The reed glides, lifts, and returns, leaving behind a quiet record of thought and order. The sun rises higher. The light grows brighter, touching the ground with a soft warmth that slowly deepens. The shadows shorten, drawing closer to the objects that cast them. The coolness of the morning begins to slip away. The scribe feels the change. A slight warmth settles on his shoulders. The air becomes a little thicker, though still gentle. He shifts his position just slightly, adjusting to the new feeling without breaking the flow of his work. Nearby, a man passes carrying a bundle of reeds. The stems are long and pale, gathered tightly together. They brush lightly against one another, making a soft, dry sound as he walks. The scribe notices only for a moment, then returns his full attention to the papyrus. Time moves quietly forward. The lines grow. The page fills. The steady rhythm continues without interruption. There is a calm in this repetition, a quiet sense of place within the flow of the day. A bird lands nearby. It steps lightly across the ground, tilting its head as it looks around. For a moment, it remains still, then lifts its wings and moves away again, disappearing into the brightening sky. The scribe dips his reed into the ink. The dark liquid clings to the tip, ready to leave its mark. He brings it back to the surface and continues, his hand steady despite the slow return of warmth. The village grows more active. Voices rise a little more clearly now, though still without urgency. The sounds of tools, of movement, of daily tasks begin to blend together into a soft, steady rhythm. Each person moves within their own routine, just as he does. The scribe remains still. His work is quiet, contained within a small space, yet it carries a sense of purpose that stretches beyond the moment. The lines he creates will remain, even as the day passes. The sun continues its climb. The warmth increases, settling more firmly into the air. The breeze becomes less frequent, and the stillness grows heavier. The ground begins to hold the heat once more. A small drop of sweat forms along the scribe's temple. He does not stop immediately. He completes the line he is writing, then lifts his hand and gently wipes his brow with a piece of cloth. The movement is slow, careful not to disturb the work before him. He breathes out softly. Then he continues. The rhythm does not break. The reed moves again. The ink flows. The papyrus fills. A figure approaches quietly and sets down a small jar of water nearby. There is no need for many words. The scribe gives a slight nod of thanks, his eyes lifting only briefly. The jar rests within reach, its surface cool to the touch. He takes a small drink. The water is already warming, but it brings a moment of ease to his throat. He sets the jar down carefully and returns to his work. The light grows stronger. The shaded area offers some relief, but the heat begins to gather once more. It settles into the air, into the ground, into the body itself. The scribe shifts again. His legs adjust slightly beneath him. His back straightens for a brief moment, then returns to its gentle curve. The movement is small, but it helps him continue. The sounds of the village begin to soften once more. As the heat increases, some movements slow. Voices become quieter. The pace of the day begins to ease into the stillness of the coming midday. The scribe remains. His work continues without pause. The steady motion of his hand marks the passing of time, even as the world around him grows quieter. The papyrus before him is nearly filled. He completes the final line with the same care as the first. There is no difference in attention, no lessening of precision. He lifts the reed. He looks over the work slowly, his gaze moving across each line. Everything is in place. Everything is as it should be. He sets it aside. Another sheet is brought forward. The process begins again. The reed is dipped. The surface is smoothed. The first mark appears. The day continues. The sun rises higher. The heat deepens. The air grows still. And the scribe, calm and patient, continues his quiet labor, carried forward once more into the long, warm hours of the ancient day. The sun climbs higher into the open sky, steady and unhurried, casting its light across the land in a wide and even glow. The warmth deepens slowly, settling into the ground, into the walls, into the still air that begins to hold it more firmly. The scribe remains where he sits. His body has returned fully to the rhythm of the day. The early coolness is gone now, replaced by a growing heat that presses gently against his skin. His hand continues its quiet movement, guiding the reed across the surface of the papyrus with steady care. The lines form one by one. There is no sudden change, no break in the pattern. The marks are placed with the same calm attention as before. Each stroke follows the next, creating a quiet flow that mirrors the slow movement of time itself. Around him, the village settles into the approach of midday. The activity that filled the early hours begins to soften. Movements grow slower. Voices become fewer. Many step away from the open paths, seeking shade within the shelter of walls or beneath simple coverings. A faint stillness begins to take hold. The air grows heavier, less willing to move. The breeze that once passed gently through the space now comes less often, and when it does, it is warm and brief. The scribe dips his reed again. The ink has thickened slightly under the heat. He adds a small amount of water, mixing it carefully with slow, practiced motions. His fingers move with quiet familiarity, each action shaped by repetition. He resumes his writing. The papyrus beneath his hand carries the growing lines of the day's work. The surface feels slightly warm now, touched by the air around it. His hand moves steadily across it, pausing only when needed. A distant sound of water reaches him. It is faint, almost hidden beneath the stillness, but it remains constant. The Nile continues its slow journey, untouched by the heat above. Its quiet presence offers a sense of calm, even from afar. The scribe does not lift his gaze. His focus remains close, held gently within the space of his work. The world beyond continues in its quiet way, but he moves within his own steady rhythm. A small shadow shifts beside him. It is cast by the movement of the sun, changing slowly as the light moves across the sky. The shaded area narrows slightly, and the warmth begins to reach further into the space. He adjusts his position. Just a small movement, enough to remain within the shade. His body shifts without breaking the flow of his work. The reed continues its motion, the lines continue to form. The heat deepens. It settles into his shoulders, his arms, his back. Sweat forms lightly along his skin, gathering slowly in the quiet stillness. The air feels thicker now, as if it rests more heavily with each breath. He pauses briefly. The reed is set down for a moment. His hand lifts, wiping gently across his brow. The cloth he uses is simple, worn soft by many days like this one. He takes a small drink of water. The liquid is warm, but it brings a quiet relief. It moves slowly down his throat, easing the dryness left by the heat. Then he returns to his work. There is no hesitation. The rhythm resonates as it always does. The reed moves again. The ink flows again. The papyrus continues to fill. Nearby, a worker passes slowly, carrying a tool across his shoulder. His steps are heavier now, shaped by the heat of the day. He moves without hurry, his path steady and familiar. The scribe notices only briefly. The presence of others drifts through his awareness like a soft sound, there for a moment, then gone again. The village grows quieter still. Many have retreated from the open sun. The sounds that remain are low and scattered. A faint voice here, a distant movement there. The world seems to slow under the weight of the heat. The scribe continues. His hand moves with less speed now, but no less care. Each line is still formed with precision. Each mark still holds its place. Time stretches gently. The sun remains high, its light strong and unwavering. The shadows are short, gathered close to the objects that cast them. The air remains still, holding its warmth. The scribe shifts again. His legs feel heavy beneath him. His back carries a steady ache, not sharp, but constant. He straightens slightly, then returns to his position, adjusting only enough to continue. A small insect moves across the ground nearby. It travels slowly, its path steady and without pause. For a moment, it comes near the edge of the papyrus, then turns away, disappearing into the dust. The scribe's hand pauses. Only for a breath. Then it moves again. The papyrus is nearly filled once more. The lines stretch from one side to the other, forming a quiet record of the passing hours. Each symbol rests where it should, balanced and clear. He completes the final line. The reed lifts gently from the surface. He looks over the work, his eyes moving slowly across the page. There is no hurry in this moment. Only quiet attention, ensuring that each part remains as it should be. Satisfied, he sets it aside. Another piece of papyrus waits. He brings it forward, smoothing it carefully with his hand. The surface is clean, empty, ready to receive the next lines. The process begins again. The reed dips into the ink. The first mark appears. The day continues. The heat remains strong. The stillness holds. And the scribe, calm and patient, continues his quiet work, moving steadily through the long, silent hours of the ancient midday. The midday hours stretch quietly across the land, long and still, as if time itself has slowed beneath the weight of the sun. The light remains strong and unwavering, falling straight down from above, leaving only small patches of shade to gather in silence. The scribe continues to sit within one of those fading shadows. His body is now fully settled into the heat of the day. His movements are slower, more measured, yet still steady. The reed pen rests between his fingers, guiding each line with the same careful attention he has carried since morning. The air feels thick. It does not move easily now. It rests heavily over the ground, over the buildings, over every living thing. Even the smallest motion seems to take more effort. Still, the scribe writes. The papyrus beneath his hand grows warm, holding the heat of the air. His fingers press lightly against it, steadying it as the reed moves across its surface. The ink dries quickly now, almost as soon as it is placed. He dips the reed again. The ink has become thicker once more, dark and slow. He adds a small touch of water, mixing it carefully, watching as it returns to the right consistency. His hands move with quiet skill, each motion practiced many times. He resumes. The lines continue to form, slow and even, each one placed with care. There is no rush, no break in his rhythm. Only the steady flow of work, moving forward as it always has. Around him, the village is nearly silent. Most have stepped away from the open heat. The narrow paths are empty, the doorways shaded and still. The sounds of the morning have faded into a deep, quiet pause. A distant animal shifts. The sound is soft, barely reaching him, but it moves through the still air with a gentle clarity. Then it fades again, leaving only silence behind. The scribe's breathing is steady. Each breath comes slowly, shaped by the warmth around him. A thin line of sweat moves down along his temple, following the curve of his face before disappearing at his jaw. He does not stop. His hand continues its motion, lifting and lowering, forming each symbol in turn. The sun remains high. Its light does not soften yet. It holds its place, strong and constant, pressing gently but firmly across the land. The ground beneath him feels warmer now, though he remains still. A small pause comes. He sets the reed down beside the ink and rests his hand for a moment. His fingers open and close slowly, easing the stiffness that has settled into them. The movement is quiet, almost unnoticed. He reaches for the water jar. The surface of the clay is warm beneath his hand. He lifts it carefully and drinks a small amount. The water brings a brief sense of relief, though it carries the warmth of the day. He lowers the jar again. The stillness returns. For a moment, he sits without moving, his gaze resting softly on the papyrus before him. The lines already written seem to hold their own quiet presence, steady and complete. Then, as always, he continues. The reed returns to his hand. The ink touches the surface. The next line begins. The hours move slowly. There is no clear change, no sudden shift. Only the quiet passage of time, marked by the steady work of his hand. A faint breeze tries to move through the space. It is weak, barely enough to stir the edge of the papyrus. It passes quickly, leaving the air still once more. The scribe adjusts slightly. His shoulders lift, then settle. His back straightens for a moment before returning to its gentle curve. The movement is small, just enough to ease the steady weight of the day. The papyrus begins to fill again. Line after line, the surface grows covered with symbols. Each one is clear, formed with care, placed exactly where it belongs. There is a quiet peace in this repetition. It asks nothing more than attention. Nothing more than patience. The scribe continues. A distant voice rises briefly, then fades. Perhaps someone speaking from within a shaded home. The sound does not carry far in the heavy air. The village remains still. The sun begins, very slowly, to shift. It is not yet noticeable in its light, but the movement has begun. The long hold of midday will soon begin to loosen, though the heat still remains. The scribe finishes another line. He pauses just long enough to let the ink settle. His hand lifts slightly, hovering above the surface. Then it lowers again. The work continues. His fingers are marked now with faint traces of ink, small dark stains that remain through the hours. They are a quiet sign of the work he carries each day. The air feels slightly different. Not cooler yet, but less heavy. The first small change in the long stretch of midday begins to touch the edges of the moment. The scribe does not rush. He does not look for the change. He simply continues, steady and calm. The reed moves again. The ink flows again. The papyrus fills again. And so the long, quiet hours of midday pass slowly around him, as he remains in his place, writing with the same gentle rhythm, carried forward by patience, by habit, and by the soft, unbroken movement of time. The long stretch of midday begins, very slowly, to loosen its hold. At first, the change is almost too soft to notice. The light remains bright, the air still warm, yet something shifts beneath it all. The sun, once fixed high above, begins its quiet descent. The shadows, though still short, start to stretch ever so slightly along the ground. The scribe continues his work without pause. His hand moves across the papyrus, steady and familiar. The reed glides, lifts, and returns, marking each line with calm precision. His body remains still, shaped by long practice, though the weight of the day rests gently within his limbs. The air feels just a little lighter. It is not yet cool, but the heavy stillness begins to ease. A faint movement returns, almost like a breath passing through the space. It touches the edge of the scribe's garment, then fades again. He dips the reed into the ink. The motion is slow and careful. The ink responds more easily now, no longer as thick as it was under the strongest heat. He mixes it slightly, then continues writing. The papyrus beneath his hand holds many lines already. They stretch in neat rows, steady and balanced. Each symbol carries the same quiet care as the last. There is no sign of hurry in them, no unevenness. Only a calm, even flow. Around him, the village begins to stir once more. The deep quiet of midday lifts gently. A door opens somewhere nearby. Footsteps return to the paths, soft at first, then a little more frequent. The sound of life begins to rise again, though it remains gentle. The scribe hears it without turning. The presence of others returns to the edges of his awareness, like a distant rhythm slowly coming back. It does not disturb him. It simply becomes part of the moment. A man passes by carrying a basket. His steps are steady, though slower than in the early morning. The weight of the day still rests on him, but his movement shows the quiet return of energy as the heat begins to soften. The scribe continues. His fingers adjust slightly around the reed. His wrist moves with a gentle rhythm, guiding each mark into place. The sun lowers a little more. The light begins to warm in color, shifting from bright white into softer tones. The ground reflects it differently now, less harsh, more gentle. The shaded area grows slightly larger. The scribe finds himself more comfortably within it, the edge of the shadow stretching just a little further. He shifts only slightly, allowing the change to settle around him. A small group of voices rises in the distance. They are low and calm, blending with the soft sounds of movement returning to the village. Someone calls out briefly. Another answers. Then the voices settle again. The scribe pauses. Only for a breath. He lifts his hand and looks at the lines before him. The papyrus is nearly filled. The symbols rest quietly across its surface, forming a steady pattern that reflects the long hours behind him. He sets the reed down. His fingers open slowly, easing the stiffness that has gathered within them. He flexes them gently, one by one, then lets them rest for a moment on his lap. The air moves again. This time, the breeze is slightly stronger. It passes through the space with a soft touch, carrying with it the faint scent of water and distant fields. It cools the skin just enough to be noticed. The scribe breathes in. The change is small, but it brings a quiet sense of relief. He reaches for the water jar. The clay surface feels less warm now. He lifts it and takes a slow drink. The water, though still touched by the day's heat, feels easier, more refreshing than before. He lowers the jar and returns to his work. The reed moves again. The final lines begin to form. The village grows more active. More footsteps pass along the paths. The sound of tools returns, though softer than in the morning. A cart moves somewhere beyond the buildings, its wheels turning slowly over the ground. The scribe remains steady. His attention stays with the papyrus, though the world around him begins to move more freely once again. The light continues to soften. The shadows lengthen further now, stretching across the ground in long, quiet shapes. The warmth of the air becomes more gentle, less pressing. The scribe completes the final line. He lifts the reed carefully and holds it still for a moment, allowing the ink to settle. Then he looks over the work. His eyes move slowly across the page, checking each line, each symbol. There is no rush in this moment. Only quiet attention, shaped by habit and care. Satisfied, he rolls the papyrus. The motion is gentle, preserving the work within. He sets it aside with the others, each one holding the memory of the day's steady labor. Another sheet waits nearby. He brings it forward. The surface is smooth and empty, untouched by ink. It rests quietly before him, ready to receive the next lines. He prepares the reed once more. The ink is mixed. The tip is adjusted. For a brief moment, he pauses. The air is softer now. The sounds of the village continue to rise gently. The sun lowers further, its light turning warm and calm. Then, without hurry, he begins again. The first mark appears. And the rhythm continues, steady and unbroken, as the long day slowly moves toward evening, carrying the scribe forward in his quiet, patient work. The afternoon settles into a gentler rhythm now, as if the world has exhaled after holding its breath through the heat of midday. The sun continues its slow descent, no longer harsh, but softened by distance. Its light spreads across the land in warm, golden tones that rest quietly on walls, sand, and water. The scribe remains at his place. His posture has not changed much, though his body carries the clear weight of many hours. The repetition of his work has become something almost natural, like breathing. His hand moves with less effort now, not because the task is easier, but because it is so deeply familiar. The reed touches the papyrus again. A line begins. Then another follows. Each mark appears with steady care, as though the page itself expects nothing more than patience. The air around him has changed. It is no longer heavy. The stillness of midday has loosened, replaced by a soft movement that returns to the world. The faintest breeze passes through more often now, brushing gently across his skin before moving on. In the distance, the village feels alive again. Not hurried, not loud, but present. The sounds of work and movement rise softly, tools tapping wood, footsteps along packed earth, quiet voices passing between homes. Life resumes its flow, as steady as the river nearby. The scribe pauses briefly. He lifts the reed and lets his hand rest. His eyes move over the papyrus. The surface is nearly complete again, filled with carefully placed symbols that reflect the hours of the day. He flexes his fingers slowly. They are stiff, marked with faint stains of ink that will not fully wash away until later. He does not mind them. They are part of the day, part of the work. A small shift of light passes across his face. The sun has moved further west, and its angle has changed. The shade over him grows longer and deeper, offering more comfort than before. The heat, though still present, has softened into something manageable. He dips the reed once more. The ink flows more smoothly now, no longer thickened by the strongest heat. It spreads across the papyrus with a steady, even line. He continues writing. There is a quiet rhythm to it now, almost soothing. The repetition of movement, the gentle pause between strokes, the soft sound of reed against surface, it all blends into a calm pattern that feels almost timeless. Around him, the village prepares for evening. Small movements begin to gather. People return from fields and workshops. Some carry tools on their shoulders, others baskets in their hands. Their steps are slower than in the morning, shaped by a full day of work. A faint sound of water being poured can be heard. Somewhere nearby, a household prepares for the evening meal. The smell of cooked grain and warm bread drifts faintly through the air again, gentle and comforting. The scribe works through another line. His focus remains steady, though his thoughts grow quieter, more distant. There is a sense of completion beginning to form within him, not of ending, but of nearing rest. The papyrus fills once more. Each symbol sits neatly beside the next, forming a record that is both simple and enduring. Nothing about it is rushed. Everything is placed with care. The breeze returns again. This time, it lingers a little longer. It moves through the shaded space, cooling the air just enough to be felt clearly. The scribe does not stop, but he is aware of it, like a quiet reminder that the day is changing. The shadows lengthen further. They stretch across the ground in slow, steady motion. The light grows warmer, softer, almost golden in its final hours. The scribe completes another section. He pauses again, holding the reed above the surface for a moment before setting it down. He looks over his work. The page is nearly complete. His eyes move slowly, tracing the lines he has written since morning. There is no urgency in this moment, only quiet observation. He adjusts the papyrus gently, smoothing it, aligning it, preparing it for the final marks. A small group passes nearby. Their voices are soft, carrying the calm of the approaching evening. They do not disturb him. They are simply part of the world continuing its slow movement forward. The scribe resumes. The final lines begin. Each one is placed with the same care as all that came before. No difference in tone. No change in attention. Only the steady continuation of the work. The sun lowers further. Its light now stretches long across the land, touching everything in a soft, golden glow. The heat has faded into warmth. The air feels lighter, easier to hold. The scribe's movements slow slightly. Not from fatigue alone, but from the natural easing of the day. His body follows the rhythm of the light without resistance. At last, the final mark is made. He lifts the reed slowly and holds it still. The papyrus is complete. He takes a long, quiet look at it. His gaze moves across the surface, not searching, but simply acknowledging the work that has been done. Then he sets it aside. Carefully. Gently. He gathers the tools once more: ink, reed, papyrus, each placed back in their simple order. The village around him is now fully in evening. The sounds are calmer again, but not silent. There is a gentle presence of life returning inward toward homes, toward rest, toward the closing of the day. The scribe rises. His body feels the long hours immediately. His back is stiff, his legs slow to respond. But the movement is familiar, and he stands without hurry. He takes his bundle and begins to walk. The path home feels shorter now, as it often does at the end of the day. The light is softer, guiding him gently through the narrow streets. Fires are being lit again. Small flames appear near doorways, casting warm light onto the mud brick walls. Shadows move slowly across them, shaped by the flicker of flame and the fading sun. The air is cool now. Not cold, but calm. Comfortable. The kind of air that belongs to evening. The scribe walks steadily. Each step carries him further away from work, and closer to rest. The river's presence is felt again in the distance, steady, endless, unchanged. And as the day moves fully toward night, the world begins to quiet once more, preparing gently for the stillness that will soon return. Evening settles more fully now, not all at once, but in slow layers, as if the world is gently lowering itself into rest. The last warmth of the sun lingers across the horizon, stretching in soft bands of gold and fading orange. The sky above begins to deepen, shifting into cooler shades that promise night. The scribe walks through the familiar paths of the village. His steps are unhurried. Each one falls with a quiet rhythm against the packed earth. His body carries the weight of the day, but it no longer feels sharp or heavy. It has become something softer, like a quiet tiredness that belongs naturally to the evening. Around him, life continues in gentle motion. People move toward their homes, their silhouettes passing through warm pools of light cast by small fires. Conversations are soft, scattered, never raised. There is no urgency in their voices, only the calm of a day nearly complete. The smell of evening meals fills the air. Bread warming over coals, simple stews simmering in clay pots, the faint sweetness of grain and cooked vegetables. These scents drift between the homes and along the narrow paths, mixing with the cooling air. The scribe breathes them in as he walks. They are familiar. They belong to this hour of the day. He passes a small group seated near a doorway. They sit close together, sharing food in quiet companionship. A child leans against an adult's side, half asleep already. A soft laugh rises briefly, then fades into the evening stillness. The scribe continues onward. His presence blends into the flow of the village, just another part of the steady rhythm that moves from work to rest. The sky deepens further. The sun has now fully lowered, leaving only its afterglow along the edge of the horizon. Above it, the first stars begin to appear, faint at first, then slowly growing clearer as the light fades. The air cools noticeably. Not cold, but refreshing. It carries the gentle shift of night approaching, easing the heat that had held the land for so many hours. The scribe nears his home. The small structure stands quietly among the others, its walls holding the last warmth of the day. A faint glow comes from within, where a small lamp or fire has already been lit. He steps inside. The transition is soft. Outside to inside. Light to shade. Movement to stillness. The room greets him with quiet. The oil lamp burns low, its flame steady and small. It casts a warm glow across the walls, softening the edges of the space. Shadows gather gently in the corners, unmoving. He sets down his bundle. Papyrus, reed, ink each placed with careful familiarity. The tools of his day rest beside one another, as they always do. He stands still for a moment, letting the quiet of the room settle around him. The silence here is different from the outside. It is deeper, more complete, yet not empty. It feels held. He exhales slowly. The sound is soft, almost lost within the room. Then he moves. His hands reach for a simple bowl of food. It has been prepared, waiting. He sits on the woven mat, the same place he returned to the night before, and the night before that. He eats slowly. Each bite is unhurried, simple, grounding. The body remembers the long day and begins to release it piece by piece. Outside, the village grows quieter. Fires dim. Voices fade. The movement of people slows until only the night remains. The scribe finishes his meal. He places the bowl aside and sits for a moment longer. His hands rest loosely in his lap. His shoulders relax, sinking into the calm of the room. The lamp flickers gently. Its light shifts slightly with the movement of air, casting soft, slow-moving shadows along the walls. The scribe prepares for rest. He adjusts the mat, smoothing it with slow hands. He removes the outer layer of his clothing, setting it neatly aside. There is no rush in any of this. Only routine. He lies down. His body meets the mat with quiet acceptance. The stiffness of the day remains, but it no longer presses sharply. It begins to ease as stillness takes hold. His breathing slows. Each breath becomes deeper, softer, more even. The sounds of the village are now distant. Only the faintest echoes remain, an occasional movement, a quiet settling, the final signs of a day coming to rest. The lamp burns lower. Its flame grows smaller, softer, until it becomes little more than a gentle glow. The room darkens gradually. Not suddenly, but in calm steps, as the light fades and shadows take their place. The scribe closes his eyes. Thoughts drift gently, at first brief images of papyrus, ink, morning light, midday heat, but they do not stay. They soften. they fade. His breathing remains steady. The body rests completely now, held in the quiet embrace of night. Outside, the Nile continues its endless flow. Unseen, unchanged, steady through darkness and light alike. The stars above remain still in the vast sky. And the world, once full of movement and heat, now rests in a deep and peaceful silence. The scribe sleeps. And the night continues quietly around him, holding the ancient land in calm stillness until morning returns once more. The night holds the village in a deep, gentle stillness. The air has cooled further now, settling into a quiet balance that rests lightly over the rooftops, the narrow paths, and the sleeping homes. The heat of the day is gone completely, leaving behind only a calm freshness that moves softly through the land. Inside the small room, the scribe sleeps without disturbance. His breathing is slow and even, his body fully surrendered to rest. The mat beneath him is still, holding him in a familiar comfort shaped by many nights before this one. The faint glow from the oil lamp has long faded, leaving the space in near darkness. Only the faint outlines of shapes remain. Walls, mat, bundled tools all resting quietly in the soft absence of light. Outside, the village is almost silent. Not entirely empty of sound, but close. A distant shift of movement here and there. A soft rustle of wind through dry reeds. The occasional call of a night bird, brief and fading quickly into the dark. The Nile continues its slow passage. It does not change with the night or the day. It moves steadily, reflecting the faint light of the stars above. Its presence is calm, unbroken, as if it belongs both to silence and motion at the same time. Time passes without mark. There is no clear sense of hour or direction. Only the gentle unfolding of the night, moving forward without urgency. The scribe stirs slightly. A small shift of his shoulder, a soft adjustment of breath. But he does not wake. His body remains deeply within sleep, carried by rest that is uninterrupted and full. The village remains still. Even the smallest signs of life grow quieter. The world feels suspended, held in a soft pause between one day and the next. Above, the stars shine steadily. They do not flicker with urgency or change. They remain constant, scattered across the wide sky in quiet patterns that stretch beyond thought. The night deepens. At its deepest point, everything feels closer, yet quieter. The air is still. The ground is still. Even time itself seems to slow further, resting in a calm and weightless state. Inside the room, the scribe's breathing continues. Slow. Steady. Unbroken. His hand rests loosely near his side, fingers relaxed. The traces of ink from the day are still faintly visible on his skin, though they no longer matter here in the dark. There is only rest. The kind that holds the body without demand. The kind that allows every part of the day to fade away. The lamp remains unlit. There is no flame now, only memory of light. The room feels deeper in its silence, but not empty. It feels complete in its stillness, as if nothing more is needed within it. Outside, a faint breeze passes. It moves gently across the village, touching walls, stirring dust that has long settled, then disappearing again into the night. The scribe does not move. His sleep remains steady, uninterrupted. The river continues its endless flow. The land rests beneath the wide sky. And the night carries everything in a quiet, unbroken calm, as time moves forward in soft silence, waiting for the earliest hint of dawn that has not yet arrived. The night reaches its quietest depth, where everything feels held in a soft and complete stillness. The air is cool now, not sharp, but gentle against the land. It settles over the village like a light covering, resting on rooftops, on empty paths, on the closed doors of homes. Nothing moves quickly here. Everything feels slowed, as if the world is conserving even the smallest sound. Inside the small home, the scribe remains asleep. His body is fully at rest, no longer carrying the weight of labor, ink, or long hours of sitting. His breathing continues in a steady rhythm, calm and unbroken. Each breath comes and goes without effort, as if it belongs to the silence around him. The room is dark. Not empty, but quiet in a way that feels complete. Shapes exist only as soft impressions: the mat beneath him, the folded cloth nearby, the faint outline of his tools resting where he left them. Outside, the village is nearly indistinguishable from the night itself. There are no footsteps now. No voices. Only the occasional, distant shift of wind moving between narrow spaces. Even that fades quickly, leaving stillness behind again. The Nile flows on. It is the only movement that feels constant, though even it seems softened by the darkness. It carries the reflection of stars along its surface, broken gently by ripples that come and go without sound. The sky remains vast. The stars are steady, countless points of quiet light stretching far beyond the reach of the earth below. They do not change, do not hurry, do not fade. Time moves slowly here. Not measured in clear moments, but in gentle passing. One breath of wind. One shift of shadow. One deepening of silence after another. Inside the room, the scribe shifts faintly. A small movement, almost nothing. His shoulder relaxes further. His breathing deepens for a moment, then returns to its steady rhythm. He does not wake. The night holds him gently, without interruption. Outside, the air grows even cooler. It carries the faintest trace of morning's approach, though it is still far away. The darkness remains full and complete, but somewhere beyond it, the first suggestion of change begins to gather. It is not yet visible. Only felt in the quiet way the air rests differently, the way stillness holds a subtle shift in its weight. The scribe continues to sleep. His mind no longer follows the lines of the day. There is no papyrus, no ink, no movement of hand or reed. Only rest, deep and uninterrupted. The village remains unchanged. Homes are still. Fires are extinguished. The pathways lie empty beneath the sky. Even the smallest traces of activity have faded into the background of night. The river remains the only steady presence. Flowing. Unhurried. Unending. As the hours continue to pass, the world remains in this soft, suspended quiet, as if it is waiting without expectation, simply resting within itself. Inside the room, the scribe's breathing remains calm. Slow rise. Slow fall. Nothing more is needed in this moment. The night holds everything together in a gentle stillness that stretches on without end, carrying the ancient land forward through darkness, toward a morning that has not yet begun to arrive. The deepest part of the night begins to soften, not with any clear signal, but with a quiet, almost invisible change in the air. The darkness is still present, still full across the land, but it no longer feels quite as heavy as before. It becomes gentler, as if the night is loosening its hold ever so slightly. Inside the small home, the scribe continues to sleep. His body remains still, deeply at rest. His breathing is even and slow, the steady rhythm of someone fully carried by sleep. The mat beneath him holds him in the same familiar shape as always, unchanged, patient, and quiet. The room is silent. No lamp burns now. No movement stirs within its walls. Only darkness rests there, shaped softly by the memory of the day that passed. Outside, the village remains calm. But something subtle begins to shift. Not in sound, not in movement, but in presence. The air feels slightly different now, as if it has begun to lighten in the smallest possible way. The long stillness of night is not yet ending, but it is no longer completely unmoving. The Nile continues its steady flow. Its surface reflects the fading stars, carrying them in broken lines of light that move gently with the water. It has seen the entire night pass without change, and it will continue long after. Above, the sky begins to hint at transition. The stars remain visible, but a faint softness appears between them. A barely noticeable thinning of darkness, like the first breath before waking. Inside the room, the scribe stirs faintly. A slight shift of his head. A slow adjustment of his hand. He remains asleep, but the depth of his rest begins to ease at its edges. There is no urgency in it. Only the natural movement of rest as it prepares to release. The village outside is still quiet. But it is no longer frozen in the same way. The stillness feels lighter, as if it has loosened its grip on the world. Even silence begins to feel more open. A faint sound appears somewhere in the distance. A bird, early and uncertain, gives a soft call into the darkness. It does not repeat. It does not continue. It simply marks the change that is coming. The scribe does not wake. But his breathing shifts slightly, becoming just a little shallower, as if the body is beginning to turn gently toward awareness again. The sky continues its slow transformation. Still dark, but no longer absolute. A hidden gradient begins to form along the horizon, too faint to fully see, yet present beneath the stars. The night is not gone. It still holds the land. But it is no longer at its deepest point. Time continues without interruption. The village remains at rest. The river flows. The air stays cool. Inside the room, the scribe's hand moves slightly again. A small, unconscious motion, then stillness returns. He remains between sleep and waking, held gently in that quiet space where the body has not yet fully returned, but is beginning to loosen from rest. Outside, the first true sign of dawn gathers. Not light yet, but the promise of it. A quiet shift that spreads slowly across the sky, unnoticed at first, but growing steadily, like something inevitable and calm. The world remains silent. But it is no longer unchanged. The night continues to fade in the softest possible way, carrying the land toward morning with the same steady patience that has guided every hour before it. The darkness begins to soften again, almost imperceptibly, as if the night itself is becoming lighter in its final moments. It is still quiet across the land. Still deeply still. But there is a subtle sense that everything is preparing to change, the way a resting body slowly gathers itself before waking. Inside the small home, the scribe begins to stir more noticeably. His breathing shifts first, becoming slightly uneven for a moment, then returning to calm. His fingers flex faintly against the mat, as if responding to a world that is not yet fully present. He remains half in sleep, half in awareness. The room around him is still dark, but not as heavy as before. The edges of shapes are beginning to separate from the deep blackness, just enough to suggest form rather than pure shadow. Outside, the village is still quiet. But the silence now feels thinner. Not broken, not disturbed, just gently loosening. The river continues its steady movement, carrying the reflection of fading night across its surface. It does not hurry. It does not pause. It simply continues as it always has. Above, the sky begins its slow return. The stars remain visible, but their brightness feels softer now, less sharp against the growing sense of change. A faint glow begins to gather far along the horizon, still distant, still hidden beneath darkness. The scribe's eyes open briefly. Not fully awake. Just a moment of awareness passing through. He does not move yet. He remains still, resting between states, as if listening to the quiet of the room before the day arrives. Then his eyes close again. The body remains at rest, but the edge of sleep is beginning to lift. Outside, a second sound appears. Another bird. Then another, farther away. Small, scattered calls that do not form a pattern yet, but suggest the return of morning life. The air feels slightly different. Cool, but no longer as deep. It carries a faint freshness that was not present earlier in the night, as if the world is slowly releasing the last traces of darkness. The scribe shifts again. This time more clearly. His shoulder rolls slightly. His head turns a fraction. His breath deepens, then steadies. The return to waking is approaching, though still gentle and unforced. The village remains quiet. But it is no longer entirely still. Somewhere, a door moves softly. Somewhere else, a faint step touches the ground. These are the earliest signs of life returning, soft enough to almost disappear into the air. The sky continues to change. The darkness is thinning now, not in one place, but evenly across the horizon. The stars still exist, but they feel less dominant, as if the sky itself is preparing to receive light again. Inside the room, the scribe opens his eyes once more. This time, they remain open a little longer. He does not sit up yet. He simply lies still, breathing slowly, letting awareness return without effort. The quiet of the room surrounds him completely. He is awake, but not yet moving. The body remains in rest, even as the mind begins to return to the present moment. Outside, the first true suggestion of dawn arrives. Not sunlight yet, but something softer. A pale shift at the edge of the world, where night begins to give way. The river reflects this change gently, its surface catching the faintest hint of brightness. The village begins to wake in small, scattered ways. Not fully. Not quickly. Just gradually, as if each home is following its own quiet timing. Inside the room, the scribe finally sits up. Slowly. Carefully. The movement is familiar, repeated across many mornings. His back straightens. His hands rest briefly on his knees. His breathing steadies into the rhythm of waking life. He remains silent. The room is still dim, but no longer fully dark. Shapes are clearer now. The edge of the mat, the wall, the faint outline of his belongings. He pauses. Just for a moment. Then he prepares to move again, as the world outside continues its gentle return to morning, and the long, quiet night finally begins to release its hold on the land. The first light of morning begins to settle quietly over the land, not rushing in, but arriving with a soft and steady presence. It spreads slowly across the horizon, touching the edges of rooftops, the tops of trees, and the still surface of the river. The darkness does not disappear all at once. It fades in layers, as if it is gently being lifted away. Inside the small home, the scribe sits upright for a few quiet moments. His body is still heavy from sleep, but his awareness has fully returned. He does not move immediately. He simply remains still, allowing the transition from night to morning to pass through him. The room is no longer dark. It is dim, but visible. Shapes now have form. The walls, the mat, the simple objects around him are all clearly present, softened by the early light. Outside, the village begins to awaken more clearly. There are faint movements now, more frequent than before. A door opening. A soft voice. The gentle sound of footsteps on earth. Nothing hurried, nothing loud, only the gradual return of life. The air is cool. Fresh in a way that belongs only to early morning. It carries the memory of night, but also the promise of the day ahead. The scribe exhales slowly. His shoulders lower slightly, releasing the last tension of sleep. He places his feet on the ground, feeling the cool surface beneath him. He remains still for a moment longer. Then he rises. The movement is slow, practiced, and familiar. His body adjusts to standing, easing into the weight of the new day. Outside, light continues to grow. The sky shifts from pale gray to soft blue. The faint gold of sunrise spreads wider, touching more of the land with each passing moment. The scribe reaches for water. The clay jar sits where it was left the night before. He lifts it carefully and pours a small amount over his hands. The coolness of the water wakes the skin, bringing a gentle clarity. He touches his face. The sensation is simple but grounding. It marks the full return to the day. He dresses in quiet motions. The linen garment is light, familiar, worn smooth by many days. He wraps it around himself with the ease of repetition, each movement calm and unhurried. Outside, the village is now clearly awake. People move through narrow paths again. Some carry tools. Others carry food or water. The soft rhythm of morning labor begins to return, still gentle, still unforced. The scribe gathers his bundle. Papyrus. Reed. Ink. Each item checked, each placed in its proper order. Nothing changes, nothing is rushed. He steps outside. The morning air meets him gently. It is cooler than the room, carrying a soft freshness that belongs to the early light. The sky above is now open and brightening steadily. The river nearby reflects the growing day. Its surface shifts with subtle movement, catching the light in soft ripples that stretch across the water. The scribe begins his walk. The path is familiar. Each step is placed without thought, guided by memory and routine. The village moves around him in slow harmony, quiet voices, light footsteps, the soft sounds of a day beginning. He reaches his place of work. The shaded area is still there, waiting. The stool. The surface. The space that holds his daily rhythm. He sits. The motion is calm and practiced. His body settles into position, already remembering the hours that will follow. He opens his bundle. The reed is taken in hand. The ink prepared. The papyrus unrolled with care. For a brief moment, he pauses. The morning is still young. The light is soft. The world feels balanced between quiet and movement. Then, as always, he begins. The reed touches the papyrus. A new line appears. And the day quietly resumes its familiar rhythm, flowing forward in the same gentle pattern of work, stillness, and time. The morning settles more firmly now, as if the world has fully accepted its return to daylight. The light grows a little stronger with each passing moment, spreading evenly across the land. It touches the rooftops, the paths, and the quiet edges of the village with a soft clarity that feels calm rather than bright. The scribe continues his work. His hand moves with steady familiarity, the reed gliding across the papyrus in a slow, even rhythm. There is no urgency in his motion. The day has only just begun, and everything still feels gentle and unhurried. The ink flows smoothly. Each line appears with quiet precision, forming part of the ongoing record he has been shaping since dawn. His attention remains close, focused entirely on the small space before him. Around him, the village becomes more active. Not suddenly, but gradually, like water filling a still basin. More people appear along the paths. Some carry bundles of grain. Others lead animals or adjust simple tools on their shoulders. The soft movement of daily life returns fully. Yet the sound remains calm. Voices are present, but low. Footsteps are steady, but unhurried. Even the energy of the village feels balanced, shaped by routine rather than urgency. A faint breeze passes through the shaded space. It is cooler than before, carrying a slight freshness that contrasts gently with the warming sun. It stirs the edge of the papyrus for a moment, then fades again. The scribe steadies the page with his hand. A small, practiced motion. He does not break his rhythm. The reed continues its path, marking another line, then another. The sun rises higher. Its light becomes warmer, filling the air with a soft glow that is no longer the pale light of early morning, but something more settled and full. Shadows shorten slightly. The ground holds the brightness more clearly now, though it is still early enough for comfort. The scribe pauses briefly. He lifts the reed and lets his hand rest. His eyes move slowly across the papyrus, reviewing the lines already formed. Everything remains in order. He flexes his fingers. The stiffness from earlier has eased, replaced by the steady familiarity of continued work. The ink marks on his skin remain faint, a quiet reminder of the ongoing day. He takes a small drink of water. The clay jar is cool still, holding the freshness of morning. The water is simple, but it brings a gentle clarity to his throat. Then he resumes. The rhythm returns without interruption. Outside, the village continues its steady movement. A merchant passes by, adjusting a small bundle of goods. A child runs a few steps before slowing again. A group gathers briefly near a shaded corner, speaking softly before dispersing. All movement remains calm. Nothing rushes. The scribe's focus remains steady. His world is small in this moment: papyrus, ink, reed, and thought. Each mark is placed with care, each pause balanced between motion and stillness. The light continues to grow. The morning is now fully present. The sky is clear, open, and bright, though still gentle in its warmth. The air feels lighter than before, carrying the quiet promise of a stable day ahead. The scribe continues writing. Line after line. Mark after mark. Time moves forward in its quiet rhythm, not announced, not interrupted, but simply unfolding as the village lives within it. And so the day continues to expand, calm and steady, as the ancient world settles into its familiar flow once again. The morning deepens into a steady, settled calm, where light and movement begin to feel fully balanced across the land. The sun is now higher, but still gentle. Its warmth spreads evenly, without the sharpness of midday. The village exists beneath it in a soft rhythm, neither rushed nor still, but comfortably in motion. The scribe remains at his place. His posture is unchanged, shaped by long familiarity. The reed continues its slow path across the papyrus, each mark placed with careful attention. His movements are steady, almost meditative in their repetition. The ink flows in measured lines. There is a quiet consistency in his work. No hesitation. No interruption. Just the smooth continuation of thought translated into symbols. Around him, the village carries on. The earlier quiet has fully lifted. People now move with purpose through the paths, though still without haste. A steady flow of life returns, work, trade, small exchanges, and daily tasks unfolding in gentle coordination. A faint sound of tools meeting wood drifts through the air. It is soft, rhythmic, and distant. Not disruptive, but present enough to remind the ear that the world is active again. The breeze returns briefly. It passes through the shaded space where the scribe sits, bringing a light cooling touch. It brushes against his face, then moves on, leaving the air warm again. He does not pause. His hand continues its steady movement, guided by memory as much as intention. The act of writing has become something deeply natural, requiring no conscious effort beyond attention. The papyrus beneath him grows more filled. Lines stretch across it in quiet order, forming a record of the day's ongoing work. Each symbol rests beside the next with calm precision. The scribe shifts slightly. A small adjustment of his back, easing the slow tension of sitting. His shoulders roll gently before returning to stillness. He does not break his rhythm. The sun climbs a little higher. Its light now feels more present, more direct. The shadows have shortened further, gathering closer to the base of objects around him. The air begins to warm. Not yet heavy, but noticeably stronger than earlier in the morning. The coolness of dawn has fully passed. A nearby voice rises briefly. A short exchange between two people passing along the path. It fades quickly, blending back into the broader sound of the village. The scribe continues. His attention remains anchored to the papyrus, though the world around him is active and alive. He dips the reed into ink again. The motion is smooth, familiar. A slight pause. Then the return to the page. Each line is formed carefully. There is a quiet patience in his work, as if time itself is being gently recorded in the space before him. A small break in movement comes. He pauses, lifting the reed slightly. His eyes move across the page, checking what has been written. Everything remains steady. He lowers his hand and continues. The village continues its flow. A cart moves slowly along a wider path, its wheels pressing into the earth with soft, steady sound. A few birds pass overhead, briefly visible against the brightening sky. The scribe remains unchanged in his rhythm. Work continues. Stillness and motion blending together in quiet balance. The light grows fuller. The morning now feels complete in its presence, though the day still stretches far ahead. The scribe's hands remain calm. His body follows the familiar pattern of labor, shaped by repetition and patience. Another line is completed. He pauses just long enough for the ink to settle. Then continues again. The world around him remains steady, gently active, and quietly alive. And so the morning moves forward, without interruption, carrying the scribe and the village together through the soft, unbroken rhythm of the ancient day. The day continues its slow and steady rise, moving from the soft fullness of morning towards something warmer, more settled, and familiar. The light has grown stronger now, though it still carries a gentle quality. It rests across the land evenly, touching everything without harshness. The village feels awake in a calm and natural way, as if it has always been this way and always will be. The scribe remains at his work. His hand moves with practiced ease, the reed tracing lines across the papyrus in a steady rhythm. There is no strain in the motion anymore, only continuity. Each stroke follows the last without hesitation. The ink darkens the surface in quiet patterns. Symbols form and settle, forming a record that stretches forward with patience. The page grows fuller, yet his attention remains unchanged, close, steady, and calm. Around him, the village is fully alive now. Movement flows through the paths with gentle consistency. People pass in both directions, carrying goods, tools, and small bundles. Conversations rise briefly and fade again, never lingering too long in the air. A soft clatter of pottery comes from nearby. It is followed by the faint sound of water being poured, then the quiet return of stillness. These sounds belong to the natural rhythm of the morning, blending into the background of the day. The scribe pauses briefly. He lifts the reed and lets his hand rest. His eyes move slowly across the page, taking in what has already been written. There is no urgency in his review, only quiet attention. He adjusts the papyrus slightly. A careful movement, keeping the surface smooth and aligned. Then his fingers return to rest lightly near the edge of the page. The sun continues its climb. The light now feels more direct, though still softened by the early part of the day's warmth. Shadows are shorter, resting close to their objects, quiet and contained. The air grows warmer. Not heavy yet, but noticeably different from earlier hours. The freshness of dawn has fully passed, leaving behind the steady warmth of a developing day. A small breeze passes through again. It is brief, but welcome. It moves through the shaded area where the scribe sits, cooling the surface of his skin for a moment before disappearing again into the open air. He resumes writing. The reed touches the papyrus once more, and the steady rhythm returns without interruption. Line after line forms. Each one placed with care, each one following the last in a calm sequence that feels both structured and natural. Nearby, footsteps pass slowly. A worker moves through the path carrying a simple tool over one shoulder. His pace is steady, his presence quiet. He does not stop. The scribe remains focused. His world is contained within the space before him. Papyrus, ink, reed, and thought, these hold his attention as the day continues around him. The sounds of the village blend together. Not loud, not chaotic, but layered in gentle motion. A distant call. A soft reply. The faint rhythm of labor continuing in different directions. The scribe dips the reed again. Ink darkens the tip, then returns to the page. The motion is smooth and familiar. Time passes in this rhythm. Not marked by sudden change, but by steady continuation. The papyrus fills further. Symbols extend across its surface like a slow, flowing pattern. Each mark rests quietly beside the next. The scribe shifts slightly. A small adjustment of posture. His back straightens for a moment, then relaxes again into the familiar curve of work. The light continues to strengthen. The day is now fully present in its morning to midday transition, though still holding a sense of calm. Everything moves, but nothing rushes. The scribe completes another section. He pauses, lifting the reed gently from the page. His eyes rest on the work for a moment longer. Then he continues. And the day moves forward with him, steady and unbroken, as the ancient rhythm of writing, living, and quiet time continues to unfold beneath the warm, growing light. The morning continues its slow unfolding, moving gently toward the fuller warmth of the day, though still holding a softness that keeps everything calm and steady. The light has become clearer now. It rests across the village with a quiet brightness, illuminating walls, paths, and open spaces in a way that feels natural and unforced. The heat is present, but not yet heavy. It lingers in the air like a familiar presence. The scribe remains at his work. His movements are steady, shaped by repetition and familiarity. The reed glides across the papyrus in smooth, measured lines. Each mark appears, settles, and becomes part of the growing record without interruption. His focus does not drift. It stays anchored in the small, defined space before him: ink, surface, motion, and thought. Around him, the village continues its daily rhythm. The paths are now more consistently active. People move with purpose, though still in a calm manner. Some carry goods wrapped in cloth. Others walk in pairs, exchanging quiet words as they pass. The sound of life is steady. Not loud, not overwhelming, just present, like a soft background to everything else. A faint sound of grinding stone drifts through the air. It is slow and repetitive, the kind of sound that belongs to preparation and routine. It rises briefly, then fades again as the wind shifts. The scribe pauses for a moment. He lifts the reed and rests his hand lightly on the edge of the papyrus. His eyes move across the lines he has written so far. Everything remains orderly, consistent, and calm. He adjusts his posture slightly. A gentle straightening of the back, followed by a slow return to the familiar curve of working position. The movement is small, almost unnoticeable, but enough to ease the body. The sun continues to rise. Its position is now higher, and the light feels more direct. The shade around the scribe remains, but it is narrower than before. The world outside the shaded space appears brighter, more open. The air grows warmer. Still comfortable, still manageable, but steadily shifting toward the fuller heat of the day. The scribe returns to writing. The reed meets the papyrus again, and the rhythm resumes without hesitation. Line follows line. The ink settles into the surface, forming shapes that carry meaning beyond the moment in which they are written. Time continues in its quiet way. Not marked by urgency, but by steady progression. A group of voices passes nearby. They are soft and brief, dissolving into the wider sound of the village before they can settle into focus. The scribe does not look up. He remains centered in his task. The papyrus grows fuller. Each section completed leads into the next without break. The surface becomes a continuous flow of careful, deliberate writing. A faint breeze returns again. It moves gently through the space, offering a short moment of coolness. It touches the scribe's skin, then fades as quickly as it came. He continues without pause. The rhythm remains unchanged. The reed moves. The ink flows. The page fills. The village maintains its steady movement. No rush, no disruption, only the consistent flow of daily life under the growing light. The scribe completes another line. He pauses briefly, allowing the ink to settle before moving on. His hand lifts slightly, then returns to position. The work continues. The day remains calm, expanding slowly, evenly, and without interruption. And the scribe, grounded in his familiar rhythm, continues writing as the ancient world moves forward in its quiet, unbroken flow of time. The day moves further into its steady fullness, where morning no longer feels new, yet midday has not fully arrived. It is a balanced stretch of time, calm and unhurried, where everything seems to settle into its place. The light has grown stronger again. It is no longer the soft glow of early hours, but a clearer, more defined brightness that rests evenly across the village. It reveals details more sharply now: the texture of walls, the lines in the ground, the slow movement of people passing through open paths. The scribe continues his work. His hand moves with quiet consistency, the reed tracing familiar patterns across the papyrus. The motion is steady, almost meditative, shaped by repetition that no longer requires thought. Each mark follows the next. Ink settles into the surface, forming lines that extend the record of the day. The page becomes fuller, yet there is no sense of hurry in his work. Only continuation. Around him, the village maintains its rhythm. Movement is present everywhere now, but still calm. People pass through the paths with purpose, though without urgency. Some carry bundles. Others pause briefly before continuing on their way. The sound of daily life blends softly together. Footsteps. Low conversation. The faint shifting of tools. None of it stands alone, all of it becomes part of a larger, steady background. The air has grown warmer. Not heavy yet, but noticeably more present. It carries the warmth of the rising sun, spreading gently through open spaces and shaded corners alike. The scribe pauses. He lifts the reed slightly and rests his hand on the edge of the papyrus. His gaze moves slowly across what has already been written. The lines are even, consistent, and carefully placed. He adjusts his seating position. A small shift of the body, easing the slow stiffness that comes with long sitting. His shoulders rise and fall once, then return to stillness. The shade around him remains, though it is thinner now. The sun has climbed higher, and its light reaches further into the space. The contrast between light and shade becomes more defined. A soft breeze passes briefly. It moves through the area with a gentle touch, cooling the surface of his skin for only a moment before disappearing again into the warmth of the air. The scribe resumes writing. The reed touches the papyrus once more, and the steady rhythm returns. Line after line is added. Each one placed carefully, without hesitation. The motion of his hand remains constant, guided by familiarity and routine. The village continues to move. A cart passes in the distance, wheels turning slowly against the earth. A brief exchange of voices follows, then fades into the wider sound of the day. The scribe does not look up. His attention remains within the small space of his work. Ink, reed, papyrus, and thought all contained in a quiet focus that does not break. The light continues to strengthen. The sky is now fully bright, and the sun holds a steady position above, casting clear light across everything below. Shadows shorten further. They remain close to objects, quiet and contained, no longer stretching far across the ground. The scribe completes another section. He pauses briefly, lifting the reed and allowing the ink to settle. His eyes trace the lines one more time, confirming their steady formation. Then he continues. The rhythm resumes without interruption. The world around him remains in gentle motion, active, but calm. Present, but unhurried. And so the day continues forward, carried by steady light and quiet repetition, as the scribe writes on in the long, unbroken flow of ancient time. The day now settles into its fuller shape, where morning has clearly passed and the world rests in a calm, steady middle of time. The light is stronger, more defined, yet still softened by the rhythm of daily life that continues without rush. The sun holds its place higher in the sky. Its warmth spreads evenly across the land, reaching into the village paths, the open spaces, and the shaded corners where people pause between tasks. The air feels steady now, no longer shifting between cool and warm, but holding a consistent presence. The scribe remains at his place. His body is still, shaped by long practice. His hand continues its quiet movement across the papyrus, the reed tracing lines that appear and settle with calm precision. There is no break in his rhythm, only continuation. The ink darkens the page. Each mark is deliberate, placed carefully beside the last. The surface of the papyrus grows more filled, carrying the steady accumulation of the day's work. Around him, the village continues its flow. Movement is constant now, though never hurried. People pass along the paths in both directions, carrying goods, exchanging brief words, tending to tasks that form the fabric of daily life. The sounds are layered but soft. A distant call. The quiet shift of tools. The faint movement of footsteps over earth. Together they create a background that feels alive but gentle. The scribe pauses. He lifts the reed and rests his hand lightly on the edge of the papyrus. His eyes move slowly across the lines already written, checking their balance and order. Everything remains steady. He flexes his fingers once, easing the stiffness that has settled from long writing. The movement is small, unhurried. The shade around him has shifted slightly. As the sun rises higher, the shaded space narrows. The light reaches closer, though it still leaves enough cover for his work to continue comfortably. A brief breeze passes through. It is faint but noticeable, moving through the warm air with a momentary coolness before fading again. It does not linger, but it is enough to be felt. The scribe resumes writing. The reed touches the papyrus again, and the rhythm continues without pause. Line after line forms. Each one added with the same steady care as before. There is no change in his attention, only the ongoing continuation of familiar work. The village remains active. A group passes nearby, their voices soft and briefly audible before blending back into the wider sound of the day. A cart moves slowly along a distant path, its wheels steady against the ground. The scribe does not turn. His focus remains anchored in the small space before him. Papyrus, ink, reed, and thought remain the center of his world in this moment. The light grows slightly warmer. Not yet at its strongest point, but clearly moving toward the fuller heat of midday. Shadows tighten further, staying close to their sources. The scribe completes another section. He pauses, allowing the ink to settle before lifting the reed. His gaze moves across the page once more, calm and deliberate. The lines remain consistent, forming a continuous record of the day's steady passage. He adjusts the papyrus gently. A small movement to keep it aligned and smooth, then his hand returns to rest. He continues. The rhythm resonates without interruption. And the world around him continues its slow, steady motion filled with light, movement, and quiet routine as the ancient day carries forward in its unbroken flow. The afternoon light softens as it leans gently toward evening, as if the long day is finally exhaling after so many hours of steady warmth and quiet work. The sun lowers in the sky, no longer pressing directly overhead, but drifting slowly toward the horizon. Its light turns softer again, spreading across the land in calm, golden tones that touch the village with a quiet stillness. Inside the shaded workspace, the scribe completes his final lines. The reed moves more slowly now, not from exhaustion alone, but from the natural easing that comes when a task nears its end. Each mark is placed with the same care as the first one written at dawn. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is rushed. Only completion remains. The papyrus before him is filled covered in steady rows of symbols that hold the record of the day. It rests in his hands like something finished and whole, shaped entirely by patience and time. He lifts the reed one last time. A final mark. Then stillness. The sound of writing fades completely. For a moment, he does not move. He simply looks over the work in front of him, letting his eyes travel across the long, quiet effort of the day. There is no celebration in it, no sadness either, only a simple sense of completion, as natural as the setting of the sun. Carefully, he rolls the papyrus. Slow hands. Gentle movements. The kind repeated so many times they no longer need thought. The scroll is secured and placed with the others, each one holding its own quiet fragment of time. The tools are set aside. The reed rests. The ink is closed. The space before him is empty again, as it always becomes when work is done. The village outside is now fully in evening. Light stretches low across the paths. Fires begin to appear in doorways and small gathering places. Voices are softer now, less frequent, shaped by the slow return toward rest. The scribe stands. His body feels the long day in a quiet way, nothing sharp, only the steady awareness of hours lived and work completed. He does not hurry. There is nowhere to hurry to. He begins his walk home. Each step is familiar. The same paths. The same turns. The same quiet passing through a world that is slowly cooling into night. The air has changed again. It carries the softness of evening, cooler now, lighter on the skin. The heat of the day has fully loosened its hold, leaving behind a calm, breathable stillness. The river flows beside the land as always. Unchanging. Unhurried. Carrying the reflection of the sky as it shifts from gold to deepening blue. The scribe reaches his home. He enters quietly, as the village around him settles further into evening. Inside, there is simple light, simple food, simple rest. Nothing more is needed. He eats slowly. He sits. He breathes. The weight of the day releases from his shoulders little by little, not in a moment, but in a gradual easing, like sand settling after movement. Outside, the final light fades from the sky. Stars begin to return, one by one, steady and distant, as the world gently transitions once more from evening into night. The scribe lies down. The mat is familiar. The silence is familiar. The stillness is familiar. His breathing slows into rest. And the day that began with the quiet opening of morning and followed him through hours of steady work now comes to its natural end, not with a conclusion, but with calm release. The village grows quiet. The river continues. The stars remain. And the ancient world settles into night once again, holding everything in soft silence as time moves forward, gently and endlessly, into sleep.